Yay, we're here. Hi, everybody. It's Thursday, and so that means we get to celebrate. And tonight it's one of my friends that I happened to see, and he told me about his new book, and I was like, yes, will you come on our Redheaded Stepchild book celebration? And Ralph said yes. I'm going to read you just a little bit about Ralph, and then I'm going to turn it over. My name's Malika Albrecht, and I'm the founding editor of Redheaded Stepchild. We are open for submissions for just a few more days. So if you have a poem that's been rejected, please consider sending it to us. After a childhood in Connecticut and Vermont, Ralph migrated south to attend graduate school at UNC Chapel Hill. And he's lived in North Carolina, Piedmont for over 40 years. And boy, are we grateful. He taught poetry and earned a PhD in English before leaving academia to become a writer, editor, bookstore proprietor, and website designer, the latter at IBM. And he settled into a career after learning the hard way not to try supporting a family of four on a poet's salary. Yeah, that doesn't even buy a cup of coffee. Although one time I did win a meal. Akihanas used to have a haiku thing. So I was able to feed everybody, and I felt really like, oh, I made it. Currently, Ralph designs websites for poets. So if you're looking and other creative people, and that's the best person to understand what you're trying to portray. So if you don't know how to do it, don't have one, reach out to Ralph for that. His poems have appeared in over 40 publications, and my collection, The Way the Rain Works, won the 2015 Sable Books Chapbook Prize. He's twice been nominated for a Pushcart Prize, and he also co-manages the monthly poetry reading series at Flyleaf Books in Chapel Hill, and they do an amazing job of bringing poets together and celebrating new work. His latest work is Everything You Love Is New, and that came out from Red Hawk Publications. Ralph, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I'm gonna spotlight you if that's good.
Sure thing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and like, thanks to you too. Thanks for inviting me, and thanks so much for your dedication to the North Carolina poetry community, and for creating this really wonderful and relaxed venue for readings and this community. Um, thanks and thanks to all of you, friends and fellow poets and strangers alike, for tuning in this evening to hear me read. Um, here it is. Everything you love is new. That's my grandson and my daughter-in-law looking out over the harbor of Dieppe, Normandy, where they used to live. Um, and if you could say this book's about anything, it's about the pleasures and uncertainty and general strangeness of being human, which we're all familiar with, witnessing, acting, speaking up where possible, but also taking comfort in the ones we love and in our daily, very strange and unusual daily occurrences. As I say in one poem, we're always crossing a bridge between the ruin and the radiance. And I think maybe that's what the book's about. Uh, Even though the book's not all upbeat, it's got some pretty intense poems and some political poems. I'm going to stick with the upbeat poems for tonight because they're the ones that make life fun and they make poetry readings fun too. So this one's called When I Hitchhiked to Big Sur back in my hippie days. When I hitchhiked to Big Sur, Ginger and Janet stopped in their cluttered Oldsmobile as evening came on. 20 miles down the coast under spring rain clouds, we laid our sleeping bags on a deserted beach and told each other stories. A wild-haired stranger stumbled into our circle, clutching a bayonet in a shaky hand and shouting about the flashback he was in. Ginger and Janet lay quiet as sand dunes. Even as I told myself to hunker down, to something inside sat up a most sociable version of me and asked him if he'd seen the sunset. As I chatted cheerily, the weird light left his eyes, and he left. I bathed in the women's admiration. Later, in the quiet drizzle, Janet told me she couldn't, that her boyfriend would kill her, but she wished she could. We lay against each other's backs in our separate sleeping bags, and the dark cliffs rose above us. So I really enjoy going to big box stores every once in a while. It's not the kind of everyday habit you might have, but they're just so surreal and so many strange things are happening all throughout the store and strange things happen to me when I go to the stores. So this is something that happened to me in Target once, and the title of the poem is The Small Kitchen Appliances Aisle. By the time I catch sight of Celeste, I've lost track of what store I'm in. I came here for a vegetable brush, and I've been tossing every good deal I might someday need into a shopping cart whose wheels point in different directions. Celeste trembles, surprised to see me in such a place. She isn't sure what she's looking for, just wandering. She tells me I can find the vegetable brushes on the small kitchen appliances aisle. I tried to persuade her to come with me to the next meditation group, knowing sometimes riding with me works for her and sometimes not. She recedes down another aisle while I succeed in spotting, like a rare bird, my brush. I think I'll check out now. I think I'll put my purchases in the trunk. I'll yield to pedestrians, persuade myself to repark, return for that extra ream of paper, low-fat cereal, overlooked cleanser, one more word with Celeste. And taking it up to the next level, this one's about the night that Garth Brooks played at Walmart. This best engine of commerce, its very name like nothing the language has produced before, meaning something between gathering and exchange in aisles, in narrow lanes, as far beyond this day's redemption as half-remembered sound bites on the intercom. This building's soul, a dusty, empty corridor where loading dock attendants shoulder bargains of every hue as we shoppers scurry among racks of clothing, as we hunt for our batteries, our toiletries, our cheap decorative doormats. And Garth Brooks, they say, is in electronics. In every electronics department, in every Walmart in the world, playing a catchy, glittery number for everyone who shops at Walmart or works at Walmart or drops into Walmart to experience Garth Brooks singing the Body Electric on a soundstage in Los Angeles while this best consumer edifice picks up his TV feed. Is this healthy? A dull man greets me with a smile, the doorkeeper. I float in fluorescence, my skin pasty, the dreams and despair of my fellow shoppers lapping at me like the mingled waters of discourse, recreation, and the purse. I have been dazzled, been reduced to fingering off-brand golf balls as I stand in the register line, and the terrible God of the universe that is here and then gone waits at the final checkout. A man like you deserves French fries. This is a sonnet, by the way. Behind a counter where flawless cabinets flick out straws, three machine tenders in green and white await my word. I call to one, a young girl near a tall thing like an injection mold, offer the change in my pocket for something thick and cold with chocolate she can dump in a cup. Her smile slides its fingers up my thighs. She says, a man like you deserves French fries. Uh, so toning it down just a little bit, this is the Green Patrick of mourning. You wake up and have your little dialogue with death. Then you wonder why your glasses are on the floor. Your mind is a conveyor belt, bringing you snatches of dreams to assemble, already flapping apart in the winds of day. A sad man and woman natter for attention, prayer flags, the briefest of smiles, and down the green patchwork of morning, the only one you loved, walking into light. Okay. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit here and read a new poem. And this is about where I grew up, and it's I want to read some poems about childhood now. That's one of the sections of my book is called "Cold Days in Eden," and that's kind of like my childhood was cold days in Eden. And so I'm going to read some poems from that section, but I'm going to introduce them with this poem. Something very strange happened. I pulled out one of those quarters, had commemorative quarters about states that they were doing for many, many years. And it said, Weir Farm National Park on it, which is very, very strange to me because the Weir Farm was a mile up the road from where I grew up, and it had never been a national park during my childhood. And I don't know what it was doing on a quarter. So I went home to Connecticut to investigate. National Park, where I grew up. Impressionists from New York City used to summer at the Weir Farm, a mile up the road from our home. And after our time, it was designated a National Historic Park, whose white clapboards and lichen-crusted granite speak of the small, quiet world I was born into. In the April drizzle, I follow the path between stone walls where John Singer Sargent and Child Hassam strolled down through the meadow. Now a forest has sprung up, and around the pond where they swam and painted, a new green carpet of skunk cabbage. I walk in the shadows. As a child, I was taken here a couple of times for garden parties, although we were never invited to swim. Only the tadpoles swim here now, and all the certainties of my childhood are lost. Back in the parking lot, a man appears out of the mist, dressed in gray and green. He tells me he grew up where the road joins Route 33 into town. He used to work at the Yates Farm stand, where my mother would buy us corn. He would have been a little boy when I left for boarding school. It's the home buyers from the city, he says, as if to the empty road. They complain about invasive species killing their trees. But the woods are already abandoned pastures. Time goes by, and the little ponds have ruined the drainage. So who do you think has done this? Is it us? He wants to convince me with his eyes, oblivious to the rain falling on our heads. So that's the poem that opens the door into childhood. And now I'm going to just dive through that door and read you about how we lost the beehives. This is one of those old money suburbs of New York and Connecticut, where there's big properties. We bought a property that had been subdivided a couple of times, and we ended up with the apple orchard, which was a really interesting place to grow up. I loved it. Um, Mr. Capuano, our apple man, arched his eyebrow, gave me a smile, and carried off our baskets in his truck. We liked him. But in the spring, when the white blossoms came again, we had a new apple man named Ruda. Capuana didn't have the right to sell the lease, said my mother, with a tight shake of her head. One Saturday afternoon, when we returned from a swim, cars and trucks were parked all along the Apple Road. Men in soiled, rumpled shirts stood in the orchard around tables that had appeared from nowhere, heavy with food, and women in dresses with polka dots. We were witnessing a miracle. Red wine in glasses, kisses, laughter, loud jokes, trees heavy with fruit. My father called Ruta from the crowd and had a quiet word. Ruta grimaced, and my father turned toward the house. Every spring brought fewer blossoms as the white painted beehives faded and grew empty. One spring they were gone, and my father taught us to play baseball among the apple trees and poison ivy. So I had three brothers, and three of us were very tightly packed within 3 years of age. The fourth one was a little younger, but the three tightly packed ones were the Three Stooges, and I was the middle stooge. And my brother Walter, my older brother, of course, was the leading stooge, and he got all the good lines. Uh, but this is what it was like. Second best stooge. Three old oak trees overhung the lawn. In football weather, Walter quarterbacked, and I ran pass patterns down and out versus Freddie and the Oaks. Walter whispered the plays to me in advance. We were the Three Stooges of Nod Hill Road. In the spring, Walter tossed tricky pitches for me to tag out Freddie between tree bases. When Freddie had a fit, Walter kept him in line like Mo, the head stooge, did with his knuckles. I wanted to be funny and well behaved. So Walter made me Larry, the quiet stooge with frizzy hair. I leaned into an oak and delivered my punchlines to its bark. So my mother grew up with servants. She was raised by servants. She thought you were supposed to have servants, even though we didn't really have the money for servants. And we did have an elderly diabetic black woman who lived in our house 5 days a week and went back home to Norwalk, the city, which was a little less affluent, um, on the weekends. And Betty never really did much, but my parents felt that they kind of needed to take care of Betty, and so she was there. And this is a couple of poems about our relationship with Betty. Betty and Freddie watched the wrestling. On the black and white TV in her room, Betty watched the local wrestling. Bad white boys acting proud. After all, the little white boys fell asleep, except Freddie, who would steal into her room where together they'd watch Bruno Sammartino pound on Haystack Calhoun. They liked each other's company. My mother talked about wrestling the way she talked about the big black headlines in the daily news that were bad for us, but not for Betty, a fact that mother couldn't explain. Weekends, when Betty took the taxi back to Norwalk, we were under orders to stay away from her room. If Freddie turned up with the daily news, mother buried it in the pile by the washer, where it waited for the Boy Scout paper drive. This one is Betty Helps Out. We didn't talk to her much. By day, she stood in the kitchen ironing in an old white uniform or leaning back on the vinyl step stool. Evenings, she watched TV in her bedroom far in the back. Heavy and diabetic, she harbored insulin syringes in the fridge, which mother warned us not to touch. Mother never called Betty a maid. She said, Betty helps us out. It was hard to read the expression behind Betty's thick glasses. In the light of memory, it comes to me as forbearance. My father paid for the funeral. None of us attended. Um, we did move to Vermont. My father was always forever trying to get away from his in-laws. He was going to move to Alaska and then he was going to move to Idaho, and he finally settled for moving to Vermont, which was a really good choice. And this is a poem about our home in Vermont. It's about the last elm in Addison County. You may know about the Dutch elm disease that swept through the Northeast and killed all these many magnificent trees we had when I was small. Um, our elm was out in the middle of a field and it hung on a long time. It was alive in the 1990s, but it finally succumbed to the disease. Last elm in Addison County. Let's walk out to the big elm, my mother would say, on a summer evening, sun low across the valley. Half a mile back in its field, it raised the elegant lily of its branches against the ridge of the green mountains. It was our landmark in all seasons. It tethered us to our new home. We would stroll to a pasture where curious Holsteins poked their muzzles through the fence and took alfalfa from our outstretched hands. Crickets surrounded us with their buzz. At the end of the rutted farm road, we waded through a sea of grass to the base of the tree. This was the spot to see the last of the light, playing across the bottomland corn crops. Shadows climbed the skirts of the mountains, one rocky ridge after another, even to the edge of our own farm, even where we stood. Okay. See, do I have time for one more? Okay. Yeah, this is another new one. It's called The Neighborhood Crows. This will be my last poem. Um, I'm eating scrambled eggs with tomatoes and avocados, watching the neighborhood crows chase a vulture away from their tree. They all slide down the wind. The vulture vanishes, and the crows settle on the lawn. One hops under my window, pecking at the dirt close enough for me to make out the blue-black barbules on its feathers, the sleek head, the black jewel of its eye. I scarcely breathe. In a blink, the crow takes wing. Now it's just me and breakfast and a pair of geese waddling down the road. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, Ralph, that was fabulous. I want to give everybody a moment. You can unmute and just say thank you for that collection of poems. Yes. Shamala just said something that I think is really worth hearing out loud. Yes, the poems seem so light, but they go quietly deep. And I wanted you, I mean, do you mind talking about that, Shamala? Because I think that's a perfect way to put it.
Oh, well, it just, they seem almost frivolous. It's funny. It's light. But then every so often there's just a line that it's like, oh, wait, there's a whole lot more going on and a whole lot more being said.
Yeah.
And it's so much more effective because you're not beating anybody over the head with it. You're just
Yeah.
thinking very quietly, and there it is. So really
And that's the
beautiful work.
perfect way to
Thanks.
say it.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
Because one of the things that strikes you in hearing Ralph read, and particularly when you get to hear multiple poems together, is that there's a quiet hand back there or a very quiet movement. And each detail that Ralph chooses has importance. Like you could say any detail about a scene, but he is hand choosing this to bring us someplace, to take us on this journey, but at the same time, there's other stuff going on. This whole, undercurrent that's fabulous. And he does it with such a gentle hand that that's part of the reason it's so effective. Yeah.
Mhm.
Does anybody have any questions for Ralph, maybe about his process or, how this book came together?
I have a question about your trip to Big Sur. Did you go to see Kerouac's house there, the house that he spent the awful few days or weekend?
I did that later on, Cal, when
Oh,
I
you
was
did? Oh, that's
an
great.
adult, so to speak. I was still 20 years old when that poem came about. We just kind of skirted the fringe of Big Sur. I think we were at the Pfeiffer State Park when the scene of that poem.
Yeah, and then there was another. Speaking of Kerouac, um, oh, well, I can't remember which one it was, but there's a long passage he writes about um, Jane Cruikshanks, I think, or no, Jane. I forget it because I can't remember which poem it applies to. But there was a cadence that sounded very much like um, something that he wrote. So anyway, that's that.
And I,
Thanks, Cal. Go ahead, Ralph.
I
Sorry.
just want
I
to
know
say,
Regina has some
Kerouac
questions.
has not really been an influence on me. I read him with pleasure when I was young, but I'm not sure he came into the poetry.
Fair enough.
Regina, did you have a question?
Yeah, I was I'm still, my mind is still on the Betty Pops.
Oh,
I
Yes.
think I think I think because I had relatives who worked in like they say white folks home. Um uh, a lot of them did move up north. Some were here, and just hearing you in those brief poems talk about, I mean, just give something that you know uh, I guess highlights the complex relationships I think that uh people had during that period of time where um they interacted within the space, but outside of the space it was different, and there were so many things going on. um when you talked about, particularly when you said how your father paid for the funeral,
yeah,
and but didn't, I guess, didn't go to it. I have to go back and
right.
see
No,
what
none of
it
us
is.
went. Yeah.
Yeah. It is just, I don't know. I don't even know. I just have to say that I really like how you, with this honest finesse, are able to kind of give us this snippet of life, um, in a time in which we don't really consider. We talk a lot about the segregation of things, but the integration that you know went on in those times. I have a really good friend who says, for all intents and purposes, the woman that was the help in his house was really the woman that raised him,
Mm.
and spent a lot of time, in conversation with him. Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe I feel this way. I almost feel like it's an honor when somebody is able to show that. Um, I'm gonna stop talking. I'm rambling. Um,
Yeah. I mean, she was such a feature of our childhood, but she wasn't, it wasn't that she was disabled. She was quiet. She didn't really interact with us, but she was part of our lives. And I just wanted to show how she was part of our lives.
right.
Yeah.
When you say that Freddie watched wrestling with her, Freddie's
Yeah.
your brother.
Freddie's the younger brother. Yeah. He was
Right,
kind of
yeah,
he was the mischievous one. He was whatever our boundaries were, Freddie was always getting outside of them.
yeah, yeah. I think that probably happened more than people would think,
Yeah.
those, yeah.
Those kind of friendships. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to speak to that too, Ralph. I so appreciate the Betty poems in particular. Um, my grandmother had a woman who my family loved dearly, Gertrude, that came to her house several times a week, and she would look after us when we were at my grandmother's house. And we loved her. My parents loved her. My grandmother treated her as an employee. We all treated her as family. And it was such a complicated relationship because she was employed. And yet we loved her and she loved us. And there was so much that could never be said. And I just think you really gave voice to that a lot. It really touched me.
It was
Yeah.
a very strange, sort of distorted way we lived.
Yeah.
Our town had a few black people living there, and they were all entertainers or athletes in New York, you
Mm.
know. And I went to a private school, and there was one black child in the school. His father was Jackie Robinson. There was one black kindergarten teacher in this school, Miss Jones, and Miss Jones was married to James Earl Jones. And this is my connection with black people growing up.
Wow.
When I was sent to boarding school, we had about 10 or 12 black kids in the school. And excuse me if I say black and not African American, who knows what to say. Um, and I just wanted to be with them. They were so much more authentic. I had one or two kind of sort of friends in the group, but I didn't really want to be with these, insufferable WASP people I'd grown up with. So I was on the track team. I was not fast, but I was fast enough to be the number two half miler. And it was just that, wow, every black, the 12 or 14 black kids in the school were on the track team. I wanted to be there too. But there was the barrier, we couldn't get past.
Yeah.
And I want to say one more thing though. The title of your poems. It was, what was the first one?
Well, the first one
Betty.
is Freddie and Betty watch the wrestling.
Right.
Oh,
Okay.
Betty and Freddie watch the wrestling. Yeah.
So when you said that, and then when you read the poem, all I could think about initially was Langston Hughes.
Yeah.
And
oh,
simple poems.
mhm.
Simple goes to whatever. Like so he had a
Okay.
series of poems called that focused on this man named Simple.
Right.
And that kind of, I don't know. I just when I heard those poems, you had to I was like, oh, he should have a little series on this, You
Yes,
could have,
Yeah.
yeah.
that's where
There's
I was
more.
going to push
Mhm.
That's
because I
interesting.
think I was wondering, Ralph, if that was something that you felt like was heading in that direction because it did feel, and I think that you are uniquely situated as the way you write
Mhm.
to talk about complexity in this. It's just such a lovely way, and it's no surprise that Langston Hughes comes to mind because I think it's this the word choices and then the what you describe and then the meta text that's underneath, if that's even the right way to
Yeah.
say it. But
Yeah.
Yes.
that's what struck me, and I think well done because I think complexity we shouldn't shy away from it, but I like how you worked with it. It's really
Yeah.
lovely.
Oh, thanks, Malika. That's a great idea. I have to say that I was always ashamed of coming from money, and tried to divest myself of it, which I'm kind of now regretting, you know. But but um, it was very, very hard for me to even address any of that in writing, to sort of fess up to my childhood. I'm glad I did. I kind of took Robert Lowell as my inspiration, and but to hear all of you say that this is a rich vein is really gratifying to me, and it makes me want to return to it, and I think I will.
Yeah, no, that just
Yeah.
made me happy because I think oftentimes, when we tackle something that feels really big, it's a good thing. It's a good thing. Um,
Yeah. I
it's
think
awesome.
too, it's important because it's so hard to talk about. There's so many emotions, and you spoke beautifully to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and intersectionality does come to play a part. To be, a white male who is coming, from some affluence. I think
Mhm.
that that's something that we can name and claim and move into, and
I've
still
lived
kind of navigate.
I've lived in that part of Connecticut and I know exactly the cult, and I'm Episcopalian, so I know the people you're talking about.
Oh
And you
yeah.
did it so perfectly,
Oh,
Yes.
thank
so accurately.
you.
And yet it's really gentle, It's really gentle, but you get all the layers. That's a
Mhm.
gift,
Right.
well, a talent.
If I
Yeah, I'm sorry. I can't put my camera on, but I just wanted, I'm going to ask a really dumb question here, I think. But first, I want to say that, yeah, this is Cindy. Um, I love the surprise. For me, it was a surprise ending. I did not expect that. But the one single sentence, you didn't go on in great detail or anything, really left me wondering, kind of like, well, what happened after that? And why didn't they go to the funeral? I'm probably asking a dumb question. I mean, I'm a boomer and we would have gone to the funeral. I don't understand. And then how did you grieve if you didn't go to the funeral? What happened?
Hmm. Well, that's a good question.
Complicated.
She was, it was a slow death, and she was no longer working for us by the time she finally died, and her health had always been an issue. She was diabetic and overweight, um, but it was not done in my social group. We would not have showed up at a black funeral. I mean, my father was a member of the NAACP in our town. He was the only white person in the NAACP. Um, it's the kind of guy he was. Um, keeps quiet about things, but he still would not have gone to, and my mother would not have let him go to a black funeral.
Wow, that
Mhm.
blows my mind. I don't come from that. I mean, my family was dirt poor. I don't understand the class thing. It doesn't make any sense to me because when I grew up, and I graduated from high school in 1974, so I'm no spring chicken. But when I was growing up, there was no racism evident in my local community or school. And to this day, that still holds. It
Hmm.
just wasn't there. And my grandparents were not racist at all. In fact, I was taught never to be racist. And I never understood what that was all about. And as you can see, I still don't. I mean, why wouldn't you go to the funeral? Of course you would go.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Well, you're very fortunate, Sandy.
I am fortunate, but I never realized it at the time. I just it we were all mixed all the time, and it wasn't. I think my grandfather, we came from Italy, and our early family was very discriminated against. And my grandfather always said that he would never discriminate on anyone because of the color of their skin or their ethnicity or creed, because of what his father had experienced. So
Hmm.
that that tradition of humanitarianism was given to me as an early child. So
Mhm.
Well, thanks for bringing, your question up. And I think also this illustrates why this is so important. It gets people talking, right? About
Yeah.
lived experiences, differences, similarities. And again, I would say intersectionality, economic resources, things like that can have impact, and where you're from, because that was Shamala said, where were you growing up, Cindy, just as far as location goes.
Well, my family, and you're not local, so I'll just give a brief description. 14621 Rochester, New York was not an affluent neighborhood between 1900 and 1960. And it was all mixed with Italian, Polish, African American, Hispanic. It was a very mixed, poor neighborhood, very poor. My my father didn't go to school for 3 years because he didn't have shoes during the Depression. But my grandfather would take the extra food which wasn't a lot, but they had a garden, and they would feed people during the Depression, anyone that came to the gate. And he told me and everyone in our family that you never turn anybody away because of the color of their skin. So
Well, that's
I was
what I would
also brought up.
encourage you to write about. So, I
Yeah.
think that again, Ralph, I hope that you're kind of seeing that influence of what you triggered or brought in discussion
Yeah.
wise, because I think that that's
I
important.
see what you mean.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm not exaggeration how poor they were. I mean, my father did not go to school because he didn't have shoes. And one winter, my grandfather burned the doors of the bedrooms because they didn't have money to buy coal to heat the house.
Oh, no.
So,
Yeah, everybody's got a different story. Our situation, I grew up in Greensboro, North Carolina, so we were the last city in North Carolina that actually integrated the public schools. We started when I was in third grade and kind of finished in sixth grade. So, as a child, our separate thing with the woman that my grandmother employed was it wasn't a forced segregation. It was we wouldn't go to her house, and my dad tried to hire her after my grandmother let her go because we loved her, and he tried to help her, and she's like, I'm not taking any help from you all. I work, everything's fine. And he was like, well, what if and I've got children I need to take care of. He was like, well, bring your children over to play. Just come have a play date. We missed you. And she was like, we don't do that. It was that segregated. It's just like, we love you, but it's that awkward. Also, it's like, no, I'm an employee of your grandmother, and we're not. It was just separate. It was separate. It was very strange. And it was difficult because you had feelings for each other, but you don't know. We don't go to lunch together. I'm not coming to your house to hang out. It's just not, it was separate.
well,
Yeah.
that blows my mind. That just blows my mind because I did not, and no, and what was really cool too is we just had our 50-year class reunion last summer that we graduated, and even to this day, I mean, all of our Black friends were our friends from high school and from grammar school, and I loved it. It was like there was never a shred of any sort of anything. We were all just friends because that's how we grew up. And I could not imagine being separated or I couldn't, my brain just cannot conceive of.
Our neighborhoods were separated. So the adults were separated. The kids, once we segregated the schools, the kids it was fine. It was just I think the separateness of how everybody lived.
Yeah, and I think we need to maybe the takeaway might be that we need to be really sensitive that our own lived experiences are not universal.
Yeah.
That, even if we are, I mean, I grew up in a country with some race issues of its own, or I wouldn't be here, but and we dance around certain lines, some things you say, some things you don't say, even with people who you would give, which is you have two kidneys, right? Even with people you would give a kidney to, there are things you don't talk about
Yeah.
and things you do or don't do together. And we have to know that if we meet people in a different context of those various races, they may not have experienced the acceptance that our friends have experienced. Again, they may have generational trauma or
Mm-hmm.
poverty that was enforced by whatever, because the now can't be solved if we don't realize that we're still carrying all those structures. To go back to Ralph's work, I love that you touched on these things so delicately that
Yeah.
you gave us this conversation.
Yes,
Thanks.
thank you. That's really what I wanted to end on is, Ralph, I hope you see that's a fabulous and fascinating thing that it got us having conversations. And I do want to really emphasize that, our lived experiences are even multifaceted. And at any moment, you can do persona poems and see the world from a different way. And Patricia Smith's Skinhead is a fabulous one to start with. If you don't know that poem, I would suggest go look it up on YouTube. But thank you, Ralph, very much for really starting that conversation and everybody that contributed and was here supporting Ralph reading. Hey, Cindy, it's so good to see you. I'm going to move to open mic. And if I put your name down and I wasn't supposed to, I'm sorry. Usually I have to say if I forgot you, but I may have added people. I have Glenn, Karen, Paul, Cal, Regina, Laura, Christy, Shamala, and Cindy. I didn't. Okay, did you want to read, Cindy?
Okay, you talked me into it. I had some dinner.
Okay.
Now I can think.
Okay, Glenn, would you start us off?
Okay. You were talking ekphrastic before. Well, this is sort of ekphrastic. Actually, I was running through the neighborhood and this girl was drawing on the driveway and she let me borrow her chalk to draw pictures for her on her driveway. And so, musée en plein air, which is French for open air museum or open air painting. Joggers descend like rainfall in the cool evening air on Magritte Street. A family chalks the sidewalk at driveway's end, diverts a runner's sweat-filled circle to nowhere like an Escher waterfall. A 3-year-old scratches stars, squiggles, circles in pink and blue. Explosions of yellow and a starry night spills over black asphalt in the driveway. The girl passes a crayon of chalk thick as the bowl of a smoker's pipe to the runner treading in place, and a cat in purple profile rises comic book bold, chest proud and tall, tail curled high, single triangle ear pointed at the sky. A balloon flies from the mouth and meows the young impressionist's name. For Dad, seen at Halloween, stalking the streets in a bowler hat with a crisp green apple stuck in his trap, while trick-or-treating with his budding artist child, the runner adds the finishing touch. Ceci n'est pas un chat. This is not a cat.
Oh, Glenn, I have to say the musicality in that poem is just, fabulous. God, those words are singing back and forth. Well done.
Thank you.
Karen, I have you next.
Okay. Gosh, I'm just still kind of basking in Glenn's poem. Okay. This is Rush Creek Morning, Fairview, North Carolina, May 9th, 2025. A single bee bumbles about the damp railing of the deck before me this early morning, as the nearest oak stands stubborn and still at the edge of this field, naked of leaves save the smattering of buds at the tops of its lowest fingers blooming with yellow-green pollen blossoms. With its ancient roughness silent and battered bark, its arms all ache, its bones all quiet moans, the gray of this day's new damp is settling in to this tree, into grass and to weed, to boggy pond, to whispered wisps of breathy breeze as gray fog breathes this day in and pauses and breathes breaths out, gently into the whites of clouds beckoning, wander by, away. Reveal this hatching of day, the peaking of sky through the blue as the piercings of pines on the highness of Bear Wallow Mountain's curved ridge is slicing an opening for the gray of this day to fly up through and into, away.
Y'all, did y'all take a special class recently on like musicality? My God, that was just beautiful. Yeah. Shyamalan just wrote, I want to sit with this poem. It's exquisite. It's gorgeous. Oh, fine. I thought it was a postcard, so I was zooming in on you. Sorry.
Oh, no, I told you I'm going to quit reading my postcard poems. I made y'all suffer through a bunch
But
of
I'm
those.
really glad. No, I'll take those. I'll come over to your house and you can just lay them out and we'll sit with them. It's fabulous. Make sure you read the chat section, people. Sometimes I forget to remind you. Paul, I have you next.
Okay. This poem is about bugs, particularly water striders. So Silver Birch Press does a thing where they have a theme that you send to, and this was the poem of that day, of the day earlier this week. So, but if you have insect or bug poems, they're a good place to send to. Water striders.
Recording.
Water striders. The fear in their legs keeps them from drowning. They skip along the surface where tension supports them. Each leg has a job to do. Hairy pairs do the work of rowing. Those in the rear steer. Cooperation crammed into such small, thin heads. They pursue ripples of the fallen, motions of mourning. Other bugs that may know they will die soon. Water in its way calms their prey. Subdued victims are lifted, mantis-like, feeding on the exhausted, the weak, the alone. These striders do what they were built to do. They're deadly deceivers, inspiring hope only to suck, discard, and move on, fearing broken promises of rescue. Cruel, you could say, but that's misnaming the gifts they bring. Is the end better postponed? May their stream run clear and its currents slow. They're insect angels without halos.
Oh, that's fabulous. And yeah, is the end better postponed? I just have to say, you thrilled me when you said, if you have bug poems, this is where you sit to. I'm so glad you're here, Paul. Thank you.
Well, I mean, they're
That's awesome.
Take a look at Silver Birch Press and see if you like what you see there. And you get to submit one poem. So, and they're pretty quick on the turnaround usually.
Oh, that's great to know. I just put it in the chat section, Silver Birch Press. Thanks, Paul.
I'll find the link and put it in.
Oh, that'd be great. Could you? Thank you. I have Cal next. Oh, there you are. Make sure you unmute.
Okay. I have a collection of 3 short poems that I call science poems. They use scientific ideas as a trope. And the third one that I did, I was challenged after I'd done 2. Someone challenged me to write one on relativity. So I wrote this. And it's called Relativity. The 14th Dalai Lama and the first Albert Einstein say everything's related, yet we feel no movement, no planetary rotation, no sense of ellipsis riding this rock around our star. Nowhere on Earth is the illusion of relative movement more profound than this self-serve car wash. Equipment going back and forth, pitching up and down, while I sit again, childlike, feeling the car move when it's not. My gyroscope confused as easily as a moral compass. Big cloth rollers knock the mirror askew. I see that twin who left on the spaceship in 1969 has returned, not aged in 40 Earth years. I'm wondering if he's come back to take my place.
I love that ending. What if he's come back to take my place? Thanks, Cal. Regina, I have you next.
Hi, everybody. It seems like I'm not through writing about my mama. And it seems like every year since she's been gone, I've done a My Mama Was a Poem. And so this one is entitled, it's new. My mama was a wonder, a healer, a seer, saw demons and spirits, both in people and outside of them, saw them moving around and across flat land, wild water, loveless terrain. I am pieces of her, a feeler, a sensor, see people and agendas, both in my mind and around corners, see the intent in their eyes before they open their mouths. And I wish they loved more and hated less. Thank you.
Damn. Yeah. If we can make that wish happen, I swear we throw some energy at it. Beautiful poem. And I hope you keep writing them. I love your mom. And I thought My Mama Was a Poem is also another place to launch from.
See, here we go. Next one.
Good. Because when you said that, I was like, and there's another one just waiting. She's just saying, do it again, Tina. Laura, I have you next.
Thank you for putting up with my kicking me out. I don't know if y'all can see this. Was it visible? I can't see my own image. Okay, here we go. If Karen and I haven't bored you to death with the Cascadia Poetic Slab Poetry Postcard Festival, here comes another poem. So this is one of the postcards I made, and I wrote this poem to go with it. Marie, strip off your wig and finery. The heavy blade sits poised to remove your head from your neck. Fear not, for in heaven there is endless cake. Thank you.
Damn, you just went there. That's fabulous. Oh my God. That's wonderful. And I am in awe of the visual images and then what you write about. I love seeing those combos. So clearly you got a fan here. Thank you for that. Christy, I have you next.
Okay, so those of y'all who know me know I am not a morning person. And it wasn't that long ago one of my attendants was leaving to go out of town. And I had to get up at 3:55 a.m. And she thought it was a good idea to try to have a conversation. Question at 3:55 a.m. Why did I get out of bed to watch her stretch raw eggs like elastic bands that will never lasso a galloping crab, or snap shut curious mouths that I long to cram full of wet boxwood moss before the coffee airs my eyes? Thanks, y'all.
That title too. Oh, that's so good. Not a morning person. Yeah. And coffee is it got to come first before there's any communication. Feel you. Shamala.
This one is for Regina. It's I took 300 stabs at it, and this is not perfect, but here we go. Sister Gina, after Regina Y.C. Garcia. Regina, queen by name, queenly strong in voice, purpose, wisdom, but also servant, humble of purpose before God. Servant to her people, family, friends. Fascinator hat wearing among so many other hats. Fascinating, nourishing, blessing, upholding. Minister's wife, Marine Corps wife, mother of 3 stalwart sons, 1 daughter in love, and very blessed, lucky grandbabies to be. And this is only her hats, purposes, services. There is also herself, fierce sparkle she brings everywhere, whose voice sings angel sweet strength, and whose family wisely raises in a choir unto themselves. She sings the joy, beauty, sorrows of the world faced head on, sings spirit strong, heart steady, even in pain or weeping, laughs with joy, cooks with purpose, cooks a gumbo made of many ingredients into one complex, harmonious whole, makes the roux that binds, that rich dark brown of long, slow, patient stirring, prayerfully created, the base to hold it all together, perfect in every way, in every time, even this one.
Gorgeous. Are you got her over there blushing, girl.
Oh my
Fierce
goodness,
sparkle.
Traveler, I love you. My
Well,
gosh.
I love you too. That should be
Oh my
obvious, right? Yes. This is only a fraction of who you are. And this was like pages and pages, and it was like, no, I can't read for 6 hours. So here we are.
Bless you. Bless you.
Yeah, you've been working on that for a while. It came together beautifully. I love that. I'm glad, Regina, I'm glad you inspired her. It's a gorgeous poem.
I feel so I feel I don't know. It's like a mixture of unworthiness and and just so thank you. Thank you.
I hope the word seen is in there too, because you are seen here.
Thank you.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys.
Y'all could come to the Barnes and Noble on the 3rd Friday of next month. Can you all come?
You can stick us in there. You can go ahead and do Facebook Live. Girl, give us a time. Can you do that? Because we
I
could
have
do
to.
that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to figure it out. It's
Or I could
growing.
do a Zoom. I could do like a personal Zoom and you just put the camera up.
Right.
There's a way we can do that. Let's talk
Let's
about it.
think about that. Yeah, yeah.
Because your virtual audience, we'll be there. You'll feel us in spirit. Our last reader is Cindy. Make sure you unmute.
Yeah, okay, hang on here because I got to read it off of my computer in my email, and I've got to turn off the captions here. Okay, hang on. All right. So this poem is called Little People. We are the little people, the people who really make this world work. We are the little people, the people who really suffer when gas goes up 50 cents a gallon every 2 weeks. We are the little people, the people who cut your hair, collect your garbage, teach kindergarten, serve you your morning coffee. We are the little people. When you suffer, we all suffer. Silently, quietly, in the car, waiting for traffic, at the grocery store, waiting in line. Your loss, your tragedy touches us, even though you don't know us. We still know you. We know your grief, the sleepless nights, the endless days of endless shock. And when sleep finally comes, the harsh jolt upon awakening and remembering that life now feels like a nightmare that can never end. The haunting grief all little people know when trauma and loss strike unexpectedly by surprise. Look around. You are not alone. You are surrounded by little people who are with you somewhere, on the bus, on the street, in the store. We are with you, even though you don't know us. We are here. We reach out. We are here with you. We know. And we offer this to you in silent grief.
Oh, Cindy, that is gorgeous.
Okay.
Yeah, and the repetition of "you are not alone, you're surrounded by little people." I feel like that poem's the perfect one to have ended on, really.
Well,
Um,
I wrote that poem while I was shopping in Aldi's. I wrote it in my head, and then I think I went out to the car and wrote it on a napkin because a lot of my poetry comes from I have these like visions, and this poem was written after some tragedy, like yesterday at the school.
yeah.
And I had this awareness that we're all walking around with some sort of tragedy and trauma that we don't see on the outside.
Mm-hmm.
And that if we can see that in our daily lives with people, we can be kinder to each other.
Agreed. Agreed. And I think community grief, worldwide grief, ecological grief, there's so much even beyond personal grief that we are experiencing um, in groups, in large groups. So that was the perfect poem. And I think also it harkens back to, I think Shamala, Regina, and Karen all said something about, kind of hinted at the idea of how important it is to speak what our truth is, even, that everybody's version of what is true is based on a lot of different factors, right? But acknowledging that all of us carry grief, all of us carry pain. That's the price of humaning, as it were. And if I have to human, I'll tell you what, I'm glad for y'all.
Oh, yeah.
I'm
Yep.
glad for y'all. Very grateful. Ralph, thank you. Be well, everybody. Yes, everything you love is new. Thank y'all so much for being in community. Be well. See you next week.
Thanks, Malika.
You're welcome, Cindy. Bye, guys.